Today's postcard has an historic stamp from one of the great abbeys of Wales. We're in Tintern Abbey. Tintern Abbey is in the parish of Chapel Hill, 4 miles north of Chepstow, on the Monmouthshire side of the River Wye, which itself forms the county boundary with Gloucestershire. Founded by Cistercian monks in 1131, it was built near the original fording point used by the Romans on their way from the important settlement of Gloucester to Usk and Caerleon.
It's a Cistercian order. It came here in 1131. Obviously they came here after the Norman conquest and the Normans had established their rule in this area. And it prospered enormously. It owned land in the Forest of Dean over that side of the river, and it owned vast tracts of land to the west. So it was a huge community and a very rich community. But unfortunately, they fell foul of Henry VIII.
Henry VIII didn't like rich communities when it wasn't the wealth that was his. It was, in fact, his ambitious Vicar General Thomas Cromwell who sowed in Henry's mind the idea of plundering and raiding the churches for their wealth, as Henry was angry and frustrated at not being able to divorce Catherine of Aragon to marry Anne Boleyn. The Wye Valley Walk, now this is something that you've got a lot to do with, isn't it, Gordon?
Well, yeah, the Wye Valley Walk is one of our premier routes through Monmouthshire. It's been in existence since about 1975, and it goes from Chepstow Castle.
That's down in the south.
It runs all the way up through our area as far as Monmouth, and then it goes up through Simonjat into Herefordshire, and then follows the river through Ross and Wye, and eventually ends up in Rhyadr.
The River Wye is 130 miles long, rising on Plinlimmon in Montgomeryshire, and flows southeast through the counties of Radnorshire, Breconshire, Herefordshire, Gloucestershire and Monmouthshire, before entering the River Severn 2.5 miles south of Chepstow.
Well, of course, we've got the whole Forest of Dean going away across to the east. So this is the edge of the Forest of Dean. And of course, on the top of the ridge there, we've got Offa's Dyke, the old Offa's Dyke, the boundary between Mercia and Wales. History goes that if you were a Welshman caught on the other side, they chopped your hand off. So obviously the Welsh didn't wander very far.
You're Scots anyway, so you're all right, aren't you?
Well, I'm all right. I'm neutral in this. Yeah.
But this river itself, what's it like for fishing?
It's one of the best salmon. Allegedly, it's one of the best salmon rivers in the country. And certainly in the past it's been one of the best. It's suffering like a lot of the other salmon rivers from overfishing on the Greenland banks and pollution and what have you. But as far as I'm aware, they're still getting a reasonable salmon catch out of here.
You know, when I lived in Monmouthshire, I remember coming here one midsummer's evening, and I was at the very top up there on a ridge by the Devil's Pulpit, and in here was the Chepstow Male Voice Choir singing, and it was the most mystical experience with these haunting voices coming out of the Abbey. And it makes you think of all those hundreds of years ago when all the monks were at prayer and their voices being raised to the heavens. How it must have seemed to the people all around as they heard their voices from here at Tintern Abbey on the banks of the River Wye.